Our video is going to explain how to install the Blum Space Step. What I've done is I've taken the 5-minute animation that Blum has, and I've done a voiceover on that, and I've added some supplemental information just to help make it a little easier to understand. To start with, let me point out a couple of things. The runners that are designed for this make it possible for you to have a space step that from front to back is 16 3/4 inch deep from front to back. Or there's another one, the other one that's available makes it possible for your step to be 18 11/16 front to back for your space step. And then the width of your space step, well, here's my space step right here, the one that I made. And I have the one that is 16 3/4 front to back. But the width of my piece of wood that I'm going to use in my personal box that I build for a space step is 10 millimeters narrower than the width of the opening of the box. That's how I cut this platform for the step. Now, another thing I wanted to point out in the video is they're demonstrating the use of a wooden block. This is not really a part of the space step. This is a separate drawer under the space step. But it's almost like you need this because your drawer front can attach to this and hide the space step. And it works real good for that. Now, in the video, Blum is suggesting that you use a 10 millimeter, I call this the lip here. And they're suggesting a 10 millimeter lip. But because I'm using 6 by 5/8 inch screws, that's too narrow. So on mine, this piece is 16 millimeters thick. And then I make it a little more than 2 inches high. So these are things you fabricate yourself, just like you also fabricate the platform for your step. In the animated video, there are a couple of pieces of wood, and I identified them as stretcher rails. I think the only reason they show these are that so that you can use it to keep your box square. But again, that's something you would make. And in this video, I'm not making those because I'm putting a full bottom into the cabinet. And then in the video, they show a cabinet leveler up into the side of the box for the space step. I'm just using these 16 millimeter bumpers when I build mine. So let's take a look at this video. It's a little bit longer, but it's well worth it if you're going to do a space step. Well, let's get started. This is Blum's video animation of installing the space step in a cabinet. And here they see it with the drawer. And that's how we're going to do it too. There's the space step and all the components it takes to produce a space step. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at all of the components, the wood ones that you have to make, that go into the space step. First of all, at the bottom of the pile there is the space step itself. And in our case, in this video, we are specifying that the space step is 21 millimeters thick. And then there's a couple other pieces that are side rails. I don't know what those wider ones are really for, those two wide strips there. I think they're stretcher rails, kind of, to hold the cabinet square when you're building it. Now, for me, I'm going to put a floor in the cabinet so those don't become a factor. And then the last thing in the image is the blocking that you would use if you're going to put a drawer under your space step. Now, moving on, we're looking at all of the hardware components that make up your space step. So let's stop here and talk about this a little bit. On the bottom image there, this is what is called a horizontal profile. It goes on the front of your space step. It's not included in the set when you buy it, so you have to buy this in addition to the space step. Now, the kit. If you look at the right side, there's two runners. They support your space step. And under it, you see part numbers, and there are two space step kits available. One of them will support a step that's 16 3/4 inches long, front to back. and the other one supports a step that's 18 and 11/16 inches front to back. So you choose one of those, and then all the rest of the stuff is in the kit when you buy it. For instance, on the upper left-hand corner are the vertical supports, which are the legs, and all of the components that are required. Take a look at the spring bumpers there, right under the vertical supports. There's 4 of them pictured there. You really will probably only use 2 of those unless you have an extra wide space step. Now, taking a look at your cabinet, this one doesn't have a floor. There are cabinet levelers for this cabinet, and the ones Blum is using is 15 millimeters. It's adjusted to that. It is not included in the set when you buy it. So you can use bumpers or whatever you want. Now this is making the blocks if you're going to put a drawer under your space step, and you really should. This block will hold your drawer runner, which is pictured in this image. It's just showing the front part of it in a technical drawing. And what we're showing here is that when you construct this wooden piece, it's going to have the lip that sticks out is 37 millimeters from the front until you get back to where the notch ends. And then you set it into the box 41 millimeters back from the front edge. And what that does is it provides you a 4 millimeter setback for your cabinet, which you really need to have. That's what the specifications call for. Now here's another thing I want to mention with regard to the wooden block that you build. In Blum's instructions, they tell you that it will be 50 millimeters wide and 50 millimeters high, and that works, but it doesn't work for me. I actually like to go higher than 50 millimeters for the height, and especially I like to go wider. Instead of 15 millimeters wide, I'm going to go 56, and what that makes possible is the lip is going to be thicker than 10 millimeters. It'll be 16. So I can use a 6 by 1/2 inch wood screw or 6 by 5/8 and it won't go through the lip. 10 millimeters is pretty short and you could use a system screw there. But I'm going to use wood screws, so I'm going to make my lip thicker than that. That's why I'm going wider. Next up, we're looking at the locations of the screw holes for attaching your runner for your space step. You'll notice that that first hole is 75 millimeters back from the front edge of the cabinet. And then you got to measure down the thickness of your step. In our case, it's 21 millimeters plus 3 millimeters, and that's the horizontal location of all the holes that you're going to use to attach the space step runner. And there the screws are going into the cabinet. Now, this portion is telling us where to locate the screw hole for attaching your runner. If it's a tandem, for example, here's the tandem box. You have to go back 33 millimeters for the center of the screw hole and up from the floor of the cabinet by 36 millimeters. That's your minimum. And that's the screw hole location for tandem box runner. Now let's say that you're going to use the tandem. Now you're still using 33 millimeter setback for the screw hole, but you're coming up from the floor of the cabinet 37 millimeters to attach your drawer runner. And now we're looking at the Legra box. The Legra box is what's being used in this video, but the application is for the Legra box or for the Movento, and that would give you, again, setback of 33 millimeters from the front of the block, and up from the floor 38 millimeters. That's your first screw hole for attaching your drawer runner, and then you can make your box to attach to that. So those are screw hole locations for a variety of the drawer runners that are available for this application. Now here comes the Legra box runner, and they're using system screws here, so they're getting by with that 10 millimeters. Now let's take a look at cutting the step width. How wide do you make the step? Well, you measure the inside of your box and deduct 10 millimeters. So your step width is interior cabinet width minus 10 millimeters. That's how wide you make it. Now let's look at front to back. How long do you make it? You have to take the nominal length of the runner, whichever one you're using. If you're using the BZ95.4100, then your nominal length is 410 millimeters plus 15 millimeters, or 425 millimeters front to back. That is the length of your step for your space step. And if you're using the 4600, then it's going to be 18 and 11/16, or 475 millimeters. That's how the step is built. Here's the animation showing you what to do. The step length from the front to the back is the nominal length plus 15 millimeters. Now let's look at drilling for the spring bumper in the bottom of the step. You're measuring back from the front edge of the step 130 millimeters from the front, and in 36 millimeters from the edge. You drill a hole 17 millimeters deep. And if your space step is wider than 900 millimeters, 35 and a half inches, then you need to use 4 bumpers. So then you can see the difference in your drilling there. You have to have one at the 130 millimeter setback and another one another 40 millimeters back, because if you go extra wide like that, one spring bumper isn't going to be enough. Now we're looking at the screw hole locations for the front connectors. If you're going to pre-drill those, and then the screw hole locations for the rear panel brackets. Now I'm not actually, when I do mine, I'm not going to pre-drill. I'm just going to screw them on. And here you see the animation of drilling the holes for the space step. We got to cut this horizontal aluminum profile that goes on the space step. And the way you do that is you take your inside cabinet width, however wide it is, and subtract 130 millimeters from that, and then cut the rod. And that's going to be exactly the correct length for your space step. And it gives you some extra support there. So inside cabinet width minus 130 millimeters for that horizontal aluminum profile. Now let's take a look at all of these pieces coming together at once here. There's all the pieces. Now we're putting the spring bumper in that hole that we drilled. Here's a little piece of wood, 16 millimeters by 16 millimeters, and that goes on to the bottom of the space step. I'm going to put that on before I put the rear bracket on, because my rear bracket will line up nicer if I do the wood piece first. Now, this is a tricky part. We're looking at how to measure for our side of our cabinet. In this drawing, we're looking at the vertical support leg, and we're using it full length, 183 millimeters. You may, if you make your cabinet shorter, then the leg has to be cut. So in this example, we have 183 millimeter vertical support. And then we have to add 46 millimeters for the plastic foot and the front connector. And then we also have to add 20 millimeters for our wooden top, 21 millimeters. That will give us 250 millimeters maximum. Now the manufacturer they want you to use 250 millimeters maximum for your cabinet height. And if you have to go any shorter, then you can cut the leg but don't go higher than 250 millimeters. This is an auxiliary drawing, let's call it, where we're showing all the parts. We have the vertical leg support, demonstrating the 250 millimeter maximum for cabinet height. Then there's the step surface at 21 millimeters thick. All of the parts are there. They're showing the support foot and the 15 millimeter cabinet levelers. All of that's included. So that's a drawing to help us get a picture of it. And this drawing is showing it without a floor in the cabinet. When I build mine, it's going to have a floor. So it'll look a little different. It'll look more like this with the optional floor. Nothing changes. You just put the floor in. It will change the location of the drawer that you put in the cabinet. It's going to mean you have to have a little bit shorter drawer side. Now here we put all the components together, the little foot bumper and the vertical support of the leg, everything gets attached. And now the magnetic catch. This is a good strong catch, and you put it on your space step, on the surface of the space step. And that's going to match up with a catch on the back of your drawer front, the one that you put in the bottom of the cabinet. Now watch what happens here. See how the feet fit into that notch? And here we put the magnetic plate for your magnetic catch. And now the drawer goes shut and catches on the step. If you use a Movento or Tandem, and for Movento you can use a mechanical push to open or tip on, and if you're using Tandem you have to use the electronic push to open or tip on. So this is how that system goes together. I hope it wasn't too confusing with all of my add-ons. Well, I hope you were able to get some useful information out of this video on installing the Blum Space Step. And I hope you did it. And if you did, share it with your friends, subscribe, and as one lady says, smash the like button.